Hi there, I'm Danny Eni from Firepole Marketing, and I have something very exciting to share with you today. As you may know, the last few years have been pretty good to me. When I started this business, I was literally starting at zero. I didn't have any traffic or subscribers, I didn't know anyone in my industry, and I had $250,000 in debt from a failed startup that I had tried to build a couple of years earlier. And now here I am, just a few years later. I have the great privilege of serving a thriving community of many tens of thousands of people, including several thousand amazing, dedicated customers who are working hard to make the world a better place, each in their own special way. I have the great privilege of working with a dozen of the smartest people that I know, and together we just closed the books on our first $1 million year. Now, there are a lot of things that have gone into creating that kind of massive growth, and I've always been pretty transparent about sharing and teaching the things that have worked best for me, because honestly, I don't believe in secrets. The more of you who are able to do the things that I've done, the more powerful and positive messages will be spread out into the world, the greater the impact will be, which means that we will all be living in a better world. That's why I've always been pretty open about what I was doing. But I have to confess that there's one strategy that's probably been more responsible for my success than anything else that I've done, and I haven't shared it publicly before, except to a small group of people. Now, it's not because I didn't want to share it with you, or I wanted to keep it just for myself. It's because for the first few years, I didn't even realize that I was doing it. It just seemed like the logical way for me to do things and grow my business. And it's only in the last year or so that I truly realized how powerful a strategy this is. And since then, I've been getting ready to share it with you and with the world. I want to introduce you to that strategy today in this video. It's a strategy for creating successful, blockbuster education products like e-courses, training programs, ebooks, and membership communities. It's the strategy that I've used to build 3 consecutive blockbuster products that have positively impacted the lives of thousands of people and done well over $2 million in sales in the last 3 years, including almost $200,000 before the products even launched. I'm going to lay out the whole strategy for you in this video, but before we get into that, I want to take a moment to talk about why we do the things that we do. Not in general as a species or a society, but specifically as aspiring online entrepreneurs who are working on building an online business, or who are at least intrigued by the idea of what an online business can bring to our lives. There are a lot of different reasons why people get involved in this pursuit of building an online business. For some people, the goal is really to get out of a bad situation. Maybe you've got a lot of debt, or maybe you're in a job that you can't stand, and you know that building an online business is a path that could lead you to freedom. For other people, it's about the future. You want to know that you won't be in trouble when it comes time to retire, and that your family will be provided for. For some people, it's about freedom, being able to do the work that you love on your own schedule from anywhere in the world. And for a lot of people, it's really about making a difference in the world by reaching and impacting more people than you ever could through just about any other way. For me, it was a combination of these reasons. I already told you that when I started this business, I had $250,000 in debt from a previous startup that had collapsed when the markets crashed in 2008. So I definitely needed the business to succeed to get out of a bad situation. And the future was important. My wife and I met in the very early days of Firepole Marketing, and I knew pretty soon that she was the one for me, and that we'd want to settle down and start a family. But honestly, the most important thing to me was making an impact. I had learned enough over my lifetime that I knew I had something valuable and important to share with the world. Maybe you can feel the same way. I mean, I know that you can relate to at least some of my story because I've had the opportunity over the last few years to get to know thousands of amazing online entrepreneurs, and there's often some similarity in our backgrounds, and a lot of similarity in our ambition to build a successful business by transforming the lives of as many people as we can touch. And that's why I'm sharing this strategy with you today. Because building blockbuster education products has made more of an impact on the world than anything else that I've done. And that includes my blog, my podcast, and even my book. That's why I'm focusing this training video on building education products, because the truth is that you can use this same strategy to design and sell very successful service packages, books, and even software products. And I've used it to do all of those things. But education products, more than anything else in the world, can be a catalyst for helping others improve their lives and make the world a better place while creating a sustainable and scalable income for you. That's what my products have done for me. They've allowed me to positively impact thousands of people while generating millions of dollars in revenues, which has in turn allowed me to hire the best people in the world and focus all of my attention and theirs on helping even more people. It's the ultimate virtuous circle, and it's all made possible by building great education products. Except that often, when you build a product, none of what I've just described actually happens. You may not know this about me, but the first product that I built under the banner of Firepole Marketing was a training program called Marketing That Works. It was a giant 6-month-long training program that teaches everything that I thought people needed to know about marketing. Now, if you haven't heard of it, I'm not surprised, because it never did well at all, and I ended up pulling it down to make room for other products. Now, this may sound familiar to you, because the world of online entrepreneurs is littered with products that people have poured their hearts and souls into creating that nobody's ever bought. It's one of the biggest tragedies of our industry, slaving away for months or even years to write an ebook or build a course or a membership site, and then when it's finally ready, nobody buys it. Or in some cases, you make a handful of sales to your mother and your brother and a couple of friends, which is just as bad because this product that you've worked so hard to build hasn't changed the life of even one person. That's what happened with the first product that I built, but it didn't happen with any others. So let me share with you what I did differently that you can learn from to make sure that your next product is a giant success. With that first training program that I built, I did what most entrepreneurs do when they build a product. I had a brilliant idea about what people really needed to learn from me, and then I retreated to my bat cave and spent thousands of hours painstakingly building this product. When I was done, a very long time later, I had recorded over 16 hours of audio, created over 80 handouts and worksheets. I'd even bought hundreds of MP3 players that I was going to send to people to kind of deliver the product through. Then I built a website, put the product up on it, and started blogging to attract attention to it. And nobody bought. I tried to do a product launch, and nobody bought. And I did promotions, and I offered bonuses, and nobody bought. I thought I had a traffic problem, and that's what most people whose products aren't selling usually think. But I've since learned that there are no traffic problems, only conversion problems. If your offer is converting, which means that people are buying it, then you can always get traffic because you can afford to pay for it. Either directly by running ads, or indirectly by paying joint venture partners a commission when they promote it, or very indirectly by investing your time, which is worth money, in all of the different traffic strategies that will bring people to your site, like guest posting, for example. I didn't have a traffic problem, I had a conversion problem. And if you've got a product that isn't selling, you've probably got a conversion problem too. Now, when you hear that you've got a conversion problem, your mind probably goes straight to split testing, right? That's where my mind went. So I learned how to use split testing software and started split testing all sorts of different things on my sales page. I tested different headlines, different colors for my buttons, different page designs, and even whole different sales letters. And still the results were minimal. And I was frustrated because I felt like there was some important key to all of this that I just wasn't getting. And there was, and I'll tell you what it is a bit later in the video. But now let's get back to my story. That first training program wasn't selling, and I eventually ended up pulling it down because I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it, at least back then. In the meantime though, I had been doing other stuff too. I had thought that I had a traffic problem, remember? So I was doing all kinds of things to get more traffic to my site. And two of the things that I did ended up being very successful. The first was doing a lot of guest posting on major blogs, and the second was publishing my book that I co-authored with Brian Clark at Copyblogger and Guy Kawasaki and Mitch Joel and all these other really great, amazing people. It was the guest posting though that indirectly led me to my first blockbuster product. Now, I stumbled onto this a little bit by accident. On the recommendation of my friend and mentor, John Morrow, I experimented a bit with guest posting. I didn't put a ton of time into it, but I sent out a couple of proposals and landed guest posts on 2 major sites, Copyblogger and ProBlogger. And I noticed that I was getting some good traffic back from those guest posts. So I decided that this was going to be a strategy that I'm really going to invest in. I researched all of the major blogs in my industry and sent guest post pitches to all of them. Now, I did that because I really thought there would be kind of a numbers game sort of thing. I figured that most of the blogs would ignore me or say no, so if I reached out to a dozen or more, I might actually land 1 or 2. But to my great surprise, they pretty much all said yes. And so all of a sudden, I had to do a lot of writing. So I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and I started to get guest posts up on a lot of major sites at the same time. And that got traffic back to my site, and so I kept on doing it. And by the end of that first year, I had published over 80 guest posts on major blogs. Now, when you do that much writing, people notice. For one, people started commenting on my posts, and one guy started leaving comments on a few of them saying, "Wow, Danny, it's like you're Freddy Krueger. Wherever I turn, you're there." And the name stuck, and that's how I came to be known as the Freddy Krueger of blogging. And a lot more people noticed and started emailing me to ask how I was writing so much so quickly. I mean, these weren't short spun articles. Every single blog post was over 1,000 words long. It was all unique and really great content, and I wrote most of them in 60 to 90 minutes, which is why I was able to get so much writing done. For a couple of months there, near the end of 2011, I was getting 3 to 5 emails every week from people asking me how I wrote so much and wanting me to teach them. Now here's the crazy part. For a long time, I resisted. My business was about marketing and I didn't want to be teaching writing, so I just politely said thank you, but I don't have a plan to be teaching this stuff. But eventually, I realized that there was just so much demand that I had to do something. At the very least, if I built some kind of training, it would help a lot of people and maybe bring in some revenue, which I didn't have a lot of at the time. So in the beginning of 2012, I told my audience that I was thinking about doing a training teaching people how to write and guest post the way I did. But I'd been burned by my last experience building a training. So I told them that I was going to do a pilot class, and it would be pretty rough and uncut, but I'd be right there to answer their questions. They had to sign up in advance, and then I'd build it, and using their feedback, I would make the final product even better. And of course, my first class of students would get in at a significant discount on the final price, in exchange for taking that risk and giving me their feedback. Well, even though I didn't have a very large audience at the time, that pilot class sold out in about 12 hours, so fast that people got angry because they didn't get a chance to see my email and sign up before the cart had closed, and so I had to open up more spots. The pilot went very well. And when I turned it into a full product a couple of months later, lots more people signed up. And because so many people were signing up and loving it, a lot of joint venture partners were excited to promote it as well. That product was Write Like Freddy, my first blockbuster product. In its first year, we sold almost 1,000 spots in the program, which costs $137, so you can do the math. That's not bad for my first successful product, right? Now, before I go any further, I want to emphasize that I'm not sharing my story with you to impress you or to make you think that I'm special somehow, because I'm really not. I just shared with you that my first product was a big failure, just like so many other people. I'm not special, but this process that I'm describing to you is special and very effective. I'm sharing this with you because I want you to see how powerful it is, and because if I've learned anything after the last several years of building successful education products for thousands of people, what I've learned is that human beings learn best through stories. So instead of sharing my story, I could have just walked you through a long checklist of strategies and steps and actions. But I know from experience that if I did that, most people wouldn't remember anything of what I explained. But people do remember stories. That's why I'm sharing my story with you. And don't worry, the steps in the process that I'm describing, they are all mapped out in the free handout that you can download below this video. So I'll continue with the story, but as I go through it, I want you to really think about how this story could apply to you too. Maybe for the last product or ebook that you tried to build, you did exactly what I did with my first product. You worked for months or maybe even years to build a product, and you were disappointed when nobody bought it. Well, for the next product, you should follow the examples that I'm showing you right now. Once you have a clear sense of what you think people want, don't go off and build it. Instead, offer it to them and see if they're willing to pay for it. And then deliver it and learn from that experience what you need to do to make the next version even better. So let's get back to the story. Within a few months of launching the pilot class of my Write Like Freddy training program, I had graduated a lot of students, and they were already out in the world applying what I had taught them. They were writing tons of amazing content really quickly and getting it published on all kinds of major blogs. And then I started to get all kinds of questions from them. There were a lot of different variations on the theme, but between the lines they were all basically asking me the same thing. They wanted to know if, now that they know how to write great content and get it published on big blogs, they knew everything they needed to know to build a successful online business. And my answer to them was, of course not! There's a lot more that goes into building a successful online business. And by this point, my business was doing multiple six figures in revenue, so I knew what I was talking about. Since I was getting so many questions, I realized that there might be an opportunity for me to build another product that could help a lot of people. But I hesitated. Write Like Freddy is a great course, but it's also a very short course. There are only 4 lessons, and it didn't take that much work to put together. This new course would cover a lot more ground, and so it would be a lot longer, and would take a lot more work for me to assemble. And I was still feeling a little burned by that first course that I had tried to build that nobody bought. So I decided to do a webinar. This was in April of 2012. I did a big webinar for my entire community and mapped out the basic steps that I had followed to build my business that I recommended they follow as well. I didn't have any kind of product to sell, but I told them that I was going to take on a small group of people to work with closely on delivering this curriculum in detail. It would cost $6,000 to join that group, and I had 9 people apply. I turned 2 of them down because after the interview they just didn't feel like a good fit, and I was left with 7 people in the group. And over the next several months, I planned out my curriculum and delivered it to them live. And I did a lot of one-on-one calls with them to help them with their individual businesses and see where they were getting stuck and how I could help. Then a few months later, in September of 2012, I did it again. This time the price was $8,000, and I brought on a few more people to work with closely and refine my ideas even further. But I got a lot of emails from people saying that they didn't have $8,000, but they really wanted to get the training. Well, I didn't have a training to sell them, but I told them that they could sign up for a classroom version that would cost a fraction of the price. I'd deliver it on live webinars, and they wouldn't get any of the one-on-one attention, but they'd learn all the same material. It wasn't until after doing all of these pilots that together generated over $70,000 in revenue that I felt ready to actually build a product teaching all this stuff. That product launched in January of 2013, and because I had such great results with the pilots, a lot of partners came on board to help me promote. That product was the Audience Business Masterclass, and in that first launch, we did almost $300,000 in revenue, and since then, well over $1 million. It was about a year ago that I started thinking back on all these products and started noticing the patterns in what I had done to launch them and make them a success. I realized that it wasn't an accident that they did so well right out of the gate and continued to sell strongly even years into the future. Whereas most people retreat to their Batcave, spending months or even years building a product and then hope that people want it, and that's what I did with my first product as well. I had learned to listen and see what the market wanted and pre-sell a pilot offer right away that would validate that I was on the right track, give me money and a budget to work with in building the product, and get feedback from real customers who were invested in the process of helping me to make it better. Now, you remember earlier in this video I said that there was a key that I just wasn't getting when I was talking about split testing and, looking at different headlines and buttons and all that kind of stuff? Well, the key thing that I was missing, and that a lot of people miss when it comes to conversion optimization, is that the most important thing that's responsible for conversion, it's not the headline, it's not the button, it's not any of those things. It's the offer itself. It's that you're creating and selling something that people actually want. If you have the right offer, then you can tweak and optimize and get great results from it. If you don't have the right offer, then there's not very much that you can do, because all the optimizations in the world won't turn something that people don't want into something that they do want. And looking at other industries, I realized that the process that I had kind of stumbled onto, it wasn't even an original idea. In the tech startup world, it's called the lean startup and agile development, and it's been around for years. But it was totally new to our industry of online business and training product creation. So I decided to systematize it and prepare a product teaching other people like you how to do what I had done. Now, of course, I was going to follow this same process to put it all together. So I started listening very carefully to see what my audience and the market as a whole really needed. The first 2 times, I only heard what they were saying when the messages were hitting me over the head in blog comments and through emails to my inbox. But now I paid attention and found that there were a lot of different ways to listen for what the market was really telling me. Many of those ways actually would work even if you don't have a mailing list at all. And once I understood what really mattered to people, I didn't rush to the Batcave to spend a year building a product. No, that would have been a terrible idea. Instead, I collaborated with my friend Marisa Murgatroyd to come onto her online business superhero summit, where I got to dress up as Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Jedi of online business, and explain this process that I had figured out. And I told everyone that I was going to put on a boot camp, teaching the steps to launching your very first pilot offer. It would be rough, uncut, and delivered live, but they'd get the first look at these ideas, lots of support, and their feedback would help make the product even better. The bootcamp cost $200, and we had over 250 people sign up. Our students learned a lot from that pilot, and I learned a lot from delivering it and seeing where people had questions. But I wanted to learn more. So I put on a live event here in Montreal and invited people to fly in for 4 days and work with me closely to get a new product ready to launch. A ticket to the event cost $15,000, and we had a dozen people sign up and fly over. We had a great time working together and learned a ton about exactly what people needed to know and how I needed to teach it. And that's when I knew that I was ready to turn all of this knowledge into a product that could impact the lives of thousands of people, who would in turn impact the lives of thousands more. My team and I have been working on that product for the last 6 months, and now we're just putting the finishing touches on it and getting it ready for new students to sign up. That's why I'm making this video for you. My approach to spreading the word about my courses is to share as much of the great ideas that I teach in there as possible, for free, so that you can learn them, apply them, maybe even see immediate results from them and understand on a deep level why the things that I have to offer you will be so valuable and beneficial. Soon, my Course Builders Laboratory training program will be ready, and we'll start enrolling new students who are ready to apply these ideas to build blockbuster training products that will multiply their income by multiplying their impact. And I hope that you'll be one of them. But we aren't quite ready yet. For one, there are still a few finishing touches for us to put on the program, and that'll take us another week or 2. But even more importantly, I'm not done sharing the ideas and strategies from the course with you, so that you really understand just how powerful this all is. Now, when I first shared this concept of pre-selling pilot offers as a way of validating your idea and building out a successful product, the number one question that I get from people is, how can you sell something that doesn't exist yet? I want to answer that question for you. So I'm working on another video that teaches you exactly how to sell your pilot offers, whether they're inexpensive email courses or very expensive service packages, and whether you've got a mailing list of thousands of people or you don't even have 1 subscriber. I'm going to teach you exactly how you can start making sales immediately, and I'm also putting together a massive set of sales templates with the exact words that you can use in your emails to make those sales. This template package is easily worth $1,000 because these emails have made me hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last couple of years. But I'm going to give you the training video and the templates for free to show you just how valuable the course that I'm creating is going to be for you. So watch your inbox in the next few days, because that's where I'll be sending you the next video and the template package. And in the meantime, make sure to download the process map that's below this video. It's a free accompaniment to the training that you've just watched, It's called 60 Days to Creating and Launching a Digital Product That Sells. It's designed to help you remember and internalize everything that I've just shared with you. So that's it for this video, and I've just got one more small favor to ask you. You see, this is the first time that I've put together a training video like this and giving it away for free, and I'd love to know if you like it and think it's valuable. So I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a comment below telling me what you liked about this, and use the buttons on the side here to share on your favorite social networks. Thanks again for watching. I'm Danny Iny from Firepole Marketing, and I'll be back with another great training video for you in just a few days.